then I bought this 30,000 mile Jeep Wrangler. It was sitting on a frame that was crustier than a loaf of French bread. I've since pulled the body off the frame, pulled the engine out, found a used frame in great shape, and put the engine, frame, and body all back together as one. But we still haven't been able to move the Jeep. So today I'm gonna try to drive it for the first time, hopefully. There's still quite a bit to do to get to that point. And first is buttoning up the fender wells and putting back in the fender liners and plugging in our lights. Look at how good this looks. It's like perfect. And after admiring just how beautiful they are, we move on to something pretty important. Wheels. Now, these are the wheels that I went with. I wanted to keep this all original. This is like a restoration. And to buy these wheels new, well, they don't make them anymore. To buy brand new replicas, the cheapest I found was $143 per wheel. And I wanted a matching spare. They look identical to these, besides the center cap does not have Jeep because they're not OEM and they're not made by Jeep. These 5 I got for $100 or $150. They're pretty close to mint, but they're gonna take a little bit of elbow grease to make them absolute perfection. So that's what we're gonna do now. I'll start by giving the wheels a thorough rinse and then a scrub with the magic eraser, followed by one final rinse, and then they can sit out to dry while I figure out what I'm gonna do with them next. And we had a bit of an issue with this process. So the wheels have been drying overnight, and slight problem. Whatever sort of cleaner I used on one damaged this one. This one was in the worst shape anyway, I think, but that's not ideal. All I really wanted to do was just wash these quick, give them a quick clear coat, maybe touch up some areas along the edge where there's a little curbing, especially like right there and such. But it looks like these things are gonna require a little bit more work than I thought. So what I'm gonna do now, Steve's recommendation is take some Scotch-Brite, gray Scotch-Brite, scuff this all up, and then clear coat it. That's what I'm gonna do on this one first, because this one obviously is in the worst shape. I'm gonna hit this with Scotch-Brite, see if I can clean it up, clear coat it, and see how it looks. The alternative is spending like $700, as I said, on new wheels. I really don't want to do that. I'm already quite the ways over budget anyways. I didn't even have a budget, but that's what I'm going to try now. If this doesn't work, I might have to just paint these or something. I don't know. I'm going to try the Scotch-Brite and clear coat first. So I began on the first wheel with the gray scuff pad, and to my surprise, it was actually looking a decent bit better. So once I finished the first wheel, I moved on to the rest. Once they'd all been scuffed down, I use a file to smooth out some light curbing on the lip, followed by a light pass with some sandpaper to finish it off. Then I can blow them all off to see where we're at. We're making an improvement, but there's still work to do to these wheels. So out comes the die grinder with an abrasive disc, which made me a bit nervous I'd bungled the whole wheel. But actually, it worked. It worked really good.
That's pretty cool. This got rid of the curb rash. I used the attachment Steve said, and it's got rid of the curb rash.
This style of Jeep wheels are known for having the clear coat just all chip away. So we're gonna re-clear them. But not with your average parts store clear coat. This 2K clear is basically auto body grade clear coat in an aerosol can. That's because these cans have an activator, or hardener, which is activated by removing the red button on the cap, flipping over the can, and pushing the red button down onto the pin on the bottom of the can. Then it's ready to go, and we're going to start with our worst wheel to see how it comes out.
This one is going to be our test wheel, because it's in the roughest shape, and we'll see how it comes out.
We'll do 2 to 3 coats of the clear on these. And after our first coat is done on this one, we need to fix a bit of an issue with the mechanicals of the Jeep. We've still got that pesky O2 sensor check engine light on. So while the first coat of clear is drying on the wheel, we'll attempt to get out the downstream O2 sensor, which, as you might tell, was really on there. But we're out of time for now and need to do a second coat of clear. And it's looking really good. So we'll start to prep the rest of the wheels so we can go back and forth from painting to swapping out the O2 sensor between coats. A drill with a sanding bit helps smooth out the lug holes. Then we go back to the die grinder to touch up some curb rash. Then they're ready for their first coat of clear. Once that's done, while they dry, it's back to our battle with the O2 sensor, which is winning. No matter how many strange noises I make, this thing won't budge. So fire was our only option. Then we tried the leverage, and that didn't work either. So I tried more fire. This thing was kicking my hiney.
What the
Finally, I cut the wires, put an impact on it, and zipped it off.
Now here is our new O2 sensor. Now I'm sure I'm going to get quite a few comments saying that I should have went with OEM or I should have gone with Bosch. And you know what? I went with the cheapest one I could find on Amazon. And that's because whatever brand of these I used last time on the 4-liter Jeep engine that we put in another Jeep last year, whatever sensor I got worked great. It didn't throw any codes, the Jeep ran smoothly, and it was like a quarter the price of OEM. So maybe we were just lucky that time, but let's see if we can get lucky again. We'll throw this in the Jeep and see if the check engine light remains or if we got rid of it.
So after putting our last coat on the wheels, we can thread in the new O2 sensor, plug in the harness, and see if all that work was for nothing.
All right, new sensor's in. Now we can start the Jeep up. See if the light comes on. I might have to clear the light and then shut it off, start again, and see if the light's still there. I hope it's not. Moment of truth.
And
And the light's still on.
which I'm not that surprised about. I didn't clear the code yet, so that's what I did. Then restarted it. Now it's gone. But something on the engine's making a grunting noise, and it's not getting any quieter. So after doing some digging through the forums, I'm going to change out the idler pulley. It's cheap, and it's easy to do. We start by pulling the belt to expose the pulley so we can check how it is. And unfortunately,
It doesn't sound very bad. That's not good.
but I'm going to change it anyways. We're already in here. Remove one bolt through the middle and it's out.
Easy.
Then we, quite simply, thread in the new one. I throw the belt on and we're done. But is it fixed?
New pulley's on, belt's on. Let's see how it sounds.
And the answer, to not my surprise, is no.
This is not great. Not great at all. If I have to do a water pump after buttoning this whole thing up,
All this would have been much easier to do before I buttoned up the front of the Jeep. But this noise is getting louder, and it's bothering me.
all right, now because I'm losing sleep over this damn thing, and I keep thinking that it could be the water pump. I was reading on some forums. Great, here comes the rain now. I was trying to hurry and do this before it came, but I read that the belt tensioner pulley will also make some noise. So what I did quick was I pulled the belt off, belt's hanging there, and I've just been turning pulleys. Obviously that one's new, not gonna make sound. That one doesn't make any noise, but the tensioner pulley, that thing's making some noise. So before it really starts raining, I'm gonna try to get that thing off, I gotta pull the tensioner off, pull the pulley off, put a new pulley on there, put the belt on and see if it's making the noise. Unfortunately, I think I'm about to get poured on, so let's try to make this quick. Was that thunder?
Not even 2 seconds later,
just out of frickin' time. I can't wait till I have my own garage. Literally 5 minutes later. All right, let's get to work.
Now we see clearly now the rain is gone. The belt comes off. And then just one bolt holds on the tensioner pulley.
All right, here's the pulley. You can kind of hear. It's kind of noisy in there. So we're gonna pull this bolt out, put on the new pulley, put this back in, and pray it fixes our problem.
I tried to get the bolt out of the pulley myself, but needed tie to hold it still. Then the bolt holding the pulley itself comes out. I compare the two, looks right, then bolt it to the tensioner.
This one's definitely quieter, so hopefully that's a good sign.
Then it can go back into the Jeep along with the belt, so we can start it up and see if we're gonna have a good day or a very bad one.
Belt's on, new tensioner's on, and of course the idler pulley is on, the new one. So let's see if we can start this thing up.
Moment of truth. This is a moment of truth.
Here goes nothing.
Bad one. Quite a bad one.
It's still making the sound.
I knew what I had to do, I think. It must be the water pump, which, surely, is only making noise now that the engine's tucked back into the Jeep body. But, no matter. Off comes the upper radiator hose, then the fan, which I did wrong, so all of this is a waste of time. Then off comes the serpentine belt, and now I can finally remove the fan. I use a big wrench to hold the big nut that holds the fan on, then whack it with a hammer to shock it loose. Then the fan comes out along with the shroud. Next, we can remove the pulley on the water pump to now expose the dreaded item we came here for. But before it comes off, the lower radiator hose has to first, which goes into the water pump on the block. And after entirely missing the bucket I put below to catch the coolant, and instead pouring it all over the place, we can now remove the 5 bolts that hold the water pump to the block. But before we take them all out, we gotta first remove the heater hose going to the tube attached to the water pump. And once that's off, we can remove the final 2 bolts. Pull off the hose, and now our water pump's out.
Well, that sucked, but the old pump is finally out. Now I gotta clean this up, get that tube off of there, and then do it all again.
This tube on the water pump's really stuck on there. So we're gonna need the torch to heat it up and get it off there, because it needs to get transferred over to our new pump. Next, I gotta scrape all the old gasket material and crud off, so that our new pump goes flat against the block and has a good seal. Looking good! Now I'll wrap the threads of the tube we took off the old pump with some Teflon before we put it into the new pump. Then we thread it in, making sure it stays in the same orientation as when we took it off. Once we put on our gasket, we can put the water pump in the reverse order. We thread on the 5 bolts and tighten them down. Then put back on our lower radiator hose, followed by the pulley on the water pump. Next, the belt can go back on, along with the fan shroud and the fan. Then we can put back on the heater hose and the upper radiator hose, and then we're done.
Finally done. Now we can start it and pray, hope and pray that the sound is gone. Because if it's still there, I'm just gonna light this thing on fire or something. All right, I've put in more coolant for what we lost. I'm leaving the cap off so that it can kind of burp out any air that's in the system. Let's start it up and see what's what.
It's still making the noise. All this work for nothing. At least it's got new parts on it. We'll order in the next replacement part from Rock Auto. But in the meantime, we gotta go back to the old frame to grab what very well may be the last parts we need off it, which are the wheels and tires. more importantly, the tires that were brand new and put on just before I bought the Jeep. I pretend to be a burglar and put my frame on cinder blocks, then load the wheels and tires into the 7.3, along with the new wheels, to go get the new tires on the old rims mounted on my newly refurbished wheels. Are we lost yet? And once those are dropped off at the tire shop, it's time to get the spare Jeep tires on and put the Jeep on the ground so we can do something we've been waiting 8 months to do.
Perfect.
It's time to take it on its first drive.
Moment of truth. I've been driving this thing since January, since we brought it home, and I parked it on this side, the side of this yard. All right, so now the Jeep is basically in its final resting place over here on the side of the garage, and this is where we're going to basically do the swap. And now it's going to be leaving from its corner for the first time. Let's see how it goes. This thing hasn't moved from this spot since I parked it here back in January. And away we go. Brakes feel a little soft even though I just bled them. So far so good. I think I might have put it in the wrong gear because the selector's not there. I think I'm one back. Yeah, so for some reason, neutral is drive. I can't believe this thing is working as good as it is. This thing is not doing bad at all, considering that, I mean, this thing is just put back together. I mean, it's going smooth. It's driving straight down the road. There's no warning lights on the dash. This is incredible. This is incredible. This is nuts. God.
I was ecstatic that a Jeep I completely disassembled then reassembled was driving so well, like a brand new 2003 Wrangler. We've really come a long way with this thing.
Well, this is amazing. What a relief off my shoulders. It's a relief, but unfortunately, we're not out of the woods yet. We still have quite the list of stuff to do to this Jeep to make it perfect. Literally perfect. But once we're finished with that stuff, it will be exactly that. Perfect. So I'm gonna end this video on a high note. It runs, it drives, but it's not done yet. And wait till you guys see this at the end of next video, all done. So I'll see you guys then. Happy motoring. All right, I got that thing snapped down so that now the indicator's actually reading correctly. Other than that, basically the brakes and that odd little like squeaking pulley sound. I gotta figure that out.